to my outline now and start going over the things that I have for the Bible study. So people pleasing is often associated with a fear of rejection, which is that matches up with my general definition that I got from Google. I actually had not read that, but I know that generally. It's associated with a fear of rejection, and this fear makes people pleasers attempt to pick the action that they believe people in their lives would want them to pick. In the end, it can lead to frustration because, one, like I said before, we're not aligned with God's purpose at that time. And oftentimes we do not give time to what we actually want to do. This eventually leads to anger and resentment because we would either directly or indirectly expect appreciation for giving up our rights, but we often don't get that appreciation. The reality is that people pleasers are trying to please, or the reality, sorry, is that the people that people pleasers are trying to please may or may not be aware of their efforts. So you could be trying to please people and they don't even know it. Like in your mind, you're trying to go the extra mile for that person, and the person is not aware that you're trying to go the extra mile for them, because in your mind, you're thinking you're doing something that they want you to do. But the reality is they may not even be paying attention to what you're doing. And if they're difficult people, they could change their mind. They could just be erratic about what they actually want you to do. One minute people want this, another minute they want something else. Welcome, Sophie. So the second point, we could still get it wrong even when we're attempting to please. If you're dealing with very difficult, toxic, or healthy personalities, they are also very difficult to please. Being a people pleaser also makes it easier for you to be easily manipulated. And here is why. The third point is there is a sense that you don't have a plan and you're waiting for someone to give you one. So the manipulator or controller is always going to be very willing to do that. So if someone is a people pleaser, if we are people pleasing, or if we are stuck in people pleasing, because I say we because I've been there, and who knows, maybe sometimes I might do without thinking, because there are people who are generally given to compassion. And when you're generally given to compassion, there are times that you could people please out of habit, or out of wanting to connect, or out of just a brokenness, or a fear, or your wounds from the past. Or even sometimes it's out of, I guess, you trying to do the right thing. Because there are times when we're culturally, I think people pleasing has been sewn into some cultures or into some family traditions, because if you are brought up and never taught to care for yourself, the possibility is there that you don't learn it as an adult. This is something that you would have to learn as an adult, or you just go on people pleasing, because that's the only thing you were taught. You were taught growing up that kindness was focusing on others and not paying attention to yourself at all. So, of course, when we're programmed that way, it's easy to just keep going on with people pleasing. So, my example from the Bible, my first example is going to be the prophet Jeremiah. And now God has sent him as a prophet to the people whose hearts were hardened. And if he was a people pleaser, he would not have been able to fulfill the call God had on his life. Jeremiah 1 verses 8-9. And I posted that in the chat in the Amplified version. It says, "Do not be afraid of them or their hostile faces, for I am with you always to protect you and deliver you, says the Lord." Then the Lord stretched out his hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said to me, "Behold, hear me. I have put my words in your mouth." Then Galatians 1 verse 10, Paul gave a really good perspective on knowing who he is versus people pleasing. He said in Galatians 1 verse 10, "Am I now trying to win the favor and approval of men or of God? Am I seeking to please someone? If I were still trying to be popular with men, I would not be a bond servant of Christ. Now, that's an amazing thing, because a lot of times, like I was saying, when people say that or think that Christianity is about doing what people want or doing what people around them want, the the um the irony of that is that if we were trying to be popular with society, or if we're trying to be popular with those around us, a lot of times it would cause us to disobey God. It wouldn't pull us closer to God. It will pull us away from God. So that people pleasing mentality is not going to help us in our faith. Most likely, it would cause more hurts. So think of an example, like a popular word associated with hurt is church hurt. And one of the things about church hurt is that it's usually focused on what the people in church did. So in our faith, if we only focus on what people in church did, it's detrimental to a personal relationship with God, because that's not the meter by which we should judge God. People are not always good reflections of God. They're not always good reflections of his love. They're not always good reflections of righteousness. So if we sit down and think only of what people around us or what people in church have presented to us, it's easy for us to go astray. It's easy for us to just decide, oh, forget it. Don't bother with going to church. Don't bother with faith. Because as some people have done, there are some people who still have their personal relationship with God, but do not go to church. I'm aware of that. But there are also some people who have totally gotten off track and totally lost their faith because of what they have seen in church. But it's also focused on people. People pleasing is focused on people. It's focused on people's opinions. It's focused on what people do or do not say. And that's something that God can heal us from. And that's something that God does need to heal us from. Welcome, Monique. Thanks for coming. So we're talking about people pleasing. And I've gone over Jeremiah. And it's in the chat, Jeremiah 1, verses 8 to 9. So, and then I did Galatians 1, verse 10. So those are examples. Those are verses where the Bible is telling us about people pleasing. And there's a great contrast between what that person could have done as a people pleaser and what they are doing as someone who is following God. Does anyone have any questions at this point?